the Huskies of UConn. And yes, Paige Bueckers is back. She will be starting today after an injury-filled season. Gina Auriemma going for yet another national championship. It would be an even dozen. And from the Southern Conference, Mercer back in the tournament. First time these two teams have ever met. Welcome to the NCAA Women's Championship presented by Capital One. And today, first round game of the Bridgeport Regional as number 2 UConn in this region taking on 15th seed Mercer.
They're going to have their work cut out for them on the boards as well.
Fans on their feet in stores, and we are underway. And Paige Bueckers did not start during the 3 games of the Big East Championships. Back in the starting lineups. Kristen Williams fires away a little bit too strong. And you will probably notice right away that Mercer is an undersized team. A decisive height advantage for the Huskies. Bueckers left it short. Second rebound for UConn.
Well, Susie Gardner talked to us about the fact that they have to be able to finish defensive possessions. Rebounding is going to be a problem for them all day long.
Yes, and second and third opportunities never good when you're playing a team as good as UConn. Kristen Williams nailing the 3. As we take a look at today's Capital One starting lineups. First for the Bears from Mercer. Talked about Neil Ticer as well as Titus Aaron Haupt is a true freshman in the starting lineup for this team. Leah Edwards coming out, bodying up the Bears who get on the score sheet. Take a look at today's starting Capital One lineups for UConn. Yes, Paige Bueckers starting for the first time since late February, and she and Azzi Fudd. Remember, Fudd missed several games as well with an injury, an ankle injury. The super freshman, great work inside by Nelson Adota.
Well, Olivia Nelson Adota really was the anchor for this team in the absence of Paige Bueckers and Azzi Fudd, and I expect her to get a lot of interior touches here today.
Titus being pounded, the super senior. And now Neil Ticer. We're going to see that tandem working together a lot, and there's work. Both Neil Ticer and Titus have buckets.
Well, both of those players are terrific in the mid-range game, and Susie Gardner talking to us about the fact that they've got to be able to get open looks and take them while they're open.
Yeah, because they won't be open for long. That has been the concern. How many opportunities to score? That's a long 2. Off the mark, rebounded by Fudd. They've been cleaning up on the offensive glass so far. And then Paige Bueckers with the drive. There has been some concern. We saw her in practice yesterday. Looked to be favoring that left knee a little bit.
I think anytime you're coming back from injury, there's a mental aspect that you have to get over. And you can't get over that until you get out into the games, until you get comfortable on the floor again.
This is her 6th game back from injury. Bueckers averaging about 14 minutes per game. Neil Ticer, good defense, had to get it up. The shot clock expiring.
I think it's a really good sign that Paige Bueckers is attacking the rim early, looking confident, getting to the paint, finishing in traffic. You know, oftentimes when you're coming back from injury, you get a little tentative. Start taking a lot of jump shots, and she's worked her way back in. She's no longer on a minutes restriction. I think you're going to see her aggressive.
Leah Edwards with the miss, but a couple of offensive rebounds, and Nelson Adota got fouled on her follow attempt.
This is a team in Mercer who had a negative rebounding margin in the SoCon, so certainly has to be a concerted effort to put a body on someone. UConn's long, they're big, they're active. It makes it difficult, but being disciplined. You can see Susie Gardner talking to her team right now.
Susie Gardner doing a terrific job taking this team to its 4th NCAA appearance in 5 years. Played at the University of Georgia for our old buddy, Andy Landers. And we see 4-time Coach of the Year in the Southern Conference, including this season. Adota now with 4 points, and now some pressure from the Huskies.
Well, Pam, we're going to see this pressure again. You think about UConn has been so limited in their roster because of injury and illness. Now they are at full strength. Gino wants them to be aggressive early in this tournament, so bringing that full court pressure.
I'm a little bit concerned about getting over a slow first quarter in the NCAA tournament, wanting them to come out playing aggressively. And boy, Aaliyah Edwards has started to look like a different player from earlier in the season.
Yeah, she really has. She looks like she's comfortable in her role. She's been aggressive. She's been rebounding the ball. 12 points in their Big East championship game against Villanova. You know, what having Azzi, Fudd, and Paige Bueckers on the floor outside of what they do offensively, it allows everyone else to play their roles. When those two were not playing, everyone had to play outside themselves and try to give more than they're used to giving for this team.
Including Kristen Williams, who has the ball. That's terrific defense by Shannon Titus. No surprise there. Titus, who forced the turnover 3 times, Southern Conference Defensive Player of the Year, and that led to the Neil Ticer lay-in.
Well, this is a team in Mercer that consistently is battle-tested. They are a team that schedules BCS schools and non-conference play. Susie Gardner really trying to put them in position to prepare for the NCAA tournament.
Felt proud about it, decided not to pull the trigger. Pass off the mark to Bueckers, but she hits the deck, and there will be a foul called on Haupt of Mercer.
Well, you mentioned Shannon Titus, her length and her athleticism, able to get a hand on that ball, and Amoria Ticer-Neal able to convert on the other end.
Titus at 6 feet tall, good size for a guard in that SoCon, and look at the defense again. Mercer being very handsy, force the tie up, and the ball goes over to the Bears. UConn putting the pressure on again. You mentioned Gino Oriema did talk to us about that, having the strength in numbers, but interesting take too, is that a lot of teams don't press as much anymore because of the three-point line on the other end.
Yeah, you don't want to give up open threes against your pressure, and he was talking about that strategically. It's a different ball game with the amount of three-point shots that are taken in the game.
It's become such a huge part of it. Neil Ticer had it rim out, rebound Nelson Ododa. Huskies on the move, and the lefty puts it up and in. Kristen Williams off to a spectacular start. Has a couple of threes. And then the pressure, it's Fudd and Bueckers. Bueckers tried to thread the needle. And another good defensive play, this time by India Banks, number 4 in black, who is a University of Miami transfer.
Yeah, the activity level by Mercer on the defensive end is really good, getting a lot of deflections. You know, this is a team in Mercer that's 12th in the nation in field goal percentage defense. So when you get UConn to take and miss shots, you've got to be able to secure that defensive board.
Yes, the numbers towards the top. Most categories in the Southern Conference, but nationally ranked in that defensive statistic. Nelson Ododa, you see the height advantage, but she took steps. So UConn up 14-6 early. Yes, they're a number 2 seed in this region, but it's been a rather strange one for the Huskies.
And this year, I have to say, has been the hardest, most trying, most emotionally and physically exhausting season that I've ever experienced.
And yes, it all started back in December. Paige Bueckers, a non-contact injury to the knee, had to miss 19 games and have surgery. They lost to Nell Fortner's Georgia Tech team, first time in an unranked squad in 10 years. And then the shocker here in the state of Connecticut, they lost not only to a conference opponent, but here at home.
Yeah, this is a team that we saw at Oregon earlier in the season, and Gino Oriema talked about that was as low as we've been. And the staff emphasis on just getting through the next game. How can we just win the next game? And that's not something UConn has experienced in a long, long time. And come back and lose to Villanova at home was the first time that he felt like the players were like, hey, what we're doing isn't working. and we got to make some changes, and they certainly have.
And you see the 45 games missed by the starters due to injury or illness. That Oregon game you referenced, when they landed, they heard that Kristen Williams would not be available because she was in COVID protocol and already missing both Fudd and Paige Bueckers. And yet here they are, Big East champions again, number 2 seed, behind NC State. Shot clock dying. Another hustle play by Titus.
And that's exactly what Mercer's going to have to do. They're going to have to make all the hustle plays, get all of the 50-50 balls, find ways to give yourself extra possessions.
The shooting has been cold, but another good play by Banks. A couple of offensive rebounds after they didn't have any in the first few minutes. That one was partially blocked by Nelson Burrow, and now here is Nika Mule, who had been starting for Bueckers in the last few games. Bueckers now taking a rest on the bench for the Huskies. Nobody there to board the miss other than Nigeria Harkless, a promising freshman out of Jacksonville. Harkless has a lot of raw potential, according to her head coach. Still learning the game. Edwards among those on the floor with the basketball. Ball goes over to Connecticut. Edwards gets a nice hand as she heads to the bench. She was a Big East All-Tournament selection this year, and so they go from tall to taller. 6'5" Dorka Juhas comes in.
Well, Dorka Juhas, just a different type of player from Aaliyah Edwards, who was able to stretch the defense from the three-point line, something that Gino Auriemma talked about using this offseason for Aaliyah Edwards to develop that three-point shot.
That's all alone.
And that's the thing, again, we talk about the impact of having Azzi, Fudd, and Paige Bueckers back on the floor. It just takes so much pressure off of everyone else. And we're used to seeing UConn be in full form offensively by this time of year. And right here, Dorka Juhas gets a wide open look and knocks it down.
Yeah, I think she was surprised she was so open when she turned around. Scored the 1,000th point of her career earlier this season. The Ohio State transfer, that last foul, by the way, on Kristen Williams, her first for the Huskies.
And Pam, it was really interesting to me when we watched practice yesterday to see how crisp and sharp UConn was, on the offensive end of the floor, going through their sets, going through their shots. That was not what we saw earlier in the season, as defensively, Nika Mule gets a hand on the ball and leads that break.
And Williams got hit on the way to the basket.
Nika Mule is the defensive player of the year in the Big East, gets her hand on that, leads the break. Kristen Williams to the line for 2.
That is the second foul on Shannon Titus, their best defensive player for Mercer. Now Williams stepping to the line. Third time in her career. She's a first-team All-Big East performer. Interesting, talking to Gino Auriemma, mentioned that he has some players who kind of like being kind of the role players, the supplemental players, if you will. And you mentioned with Fudd and Bueckers back, it takes pressure off people like Williams.
It does, and really that's how this team is built. This team is built to really put pieces together that when they're on the floor work really well. And when so many pieces were in and out at most of the time this year, you could see how disjointed things were offensively, and certainly coming into full swing and looking from a chemistry standpoint much better now that everyone's healthy.
Westbrook with the dogged defense this time. And Banks almost, yes, she did rescue it. But then the miss on the other end, Williams able to hunt the rebound. And Mercer sticking in every play but couldn't convert. Another one, this time from 3 off the mark from Juhas. And then Banks gets it over to the freshman Haupt, and that is out. Mercer, the best three-point shooting team percentage-wise in the SoCon, and they're 0 for 5 from distance so far in this game. And yes, steps taken by Caroline Ducharme, the freshman who was thrust into the spotlight after the early injuries to the backcourt and had some really good games early on.
She was terrific. She was terrific. She got an opportunity. She stayed ready. She took advantage of it. And she had missed a few games because of injury as well. And you know, that's a possession right there where she's got to take that shot.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a better shot than that.
Nice wide open look. Instead, the turnover as the shot clock is turned off for Mercer. They have been having trouble getting shots off. That one was contested, but still hit by Doherty. And Mercer able to get the shot from Doherty to close things out in the first quarter, but the Huskies take an 8-point lead after one. Winners of 11 national championships, but have not won one since 2016. Brianna Stewart's senior season. Paige Bueckers and company out to a 17-9 lead after one quarter. Pam Ward and Stephanie White joining you in this first round game in the Bridgeport Regional. And of these 4 teams in stores, only 2 of them have ever won NCAA tournament games. And look at UConn.
What? That's just incredible. And you can see the national championship banners hanging here in Campbell Pavilion. It's really just incredible, the legacy that is UConn basketball.
125 wins. All the other teams in the Bridgeport Regional, including such heavies as NC State, only 154 combined wins in their program histories. UConn trying to get all those remarkable numbers. I think 13 straight Final Fours is right up there.
It certainly is. On the quest for 14, playing the best basketball of the season.
Around the horn to Mule. Good look at the 3. Well off the mark, however. Westbrook tried to hustle to keep it in. Here's Banks. Mercer has shown some promise in their breaks, but have not been able to finish. That's a clean breakaway. Lavina Westbrook with the bucket, had not come off the bench at all in her career until mid-January, and Gina Oriema likes her punch off the bench.
He does. She brings a different dynamic off the bench than anyone else on this team. And again, she is someone who has benefited, as we see the moving screen right there, she is someone who has benefited from having Paige Bueckers back on the floor, handling the basketball. Westbrook doesn't have to have it in her hands a lot. She can play on the wing and be back in her comfort zone.
And Westbrook with the all-tournament team in the Big East, playing well this time of year. That last foul on Sierra Votaw, pardon me, the graduate player for Mercer. Votaw just picked up her second, so 2 quick ones. And she heads to the bench in favor of Allie Thane, the starter who comes back in for Mercer. We're just talking about Lavina Westbrook, and here she is at the line. So Mercer back in the NCAA tournament for the 4th time in 5 years, and they have played a couple of teams very, very closely recently.
Yeah, they certainly have, and the environment, and Susie Gardner was talking to us about that yesterday, the environment at Georgia when they were playing close to home, and certainly Iowa, a rich storied history as well. But again, this is a program that takes pride in being able to compete with BCS schools. Schedule in the non-conference, prepare themselves for these situations.
And Mercer barely got it over the mid-court line. They played Georgia in the pre-conference schedule this year, lost to them, and that's Ducharme finishing the break after the turnover, and now the timeout taken as UConn has extended its lead.
Well, continuing to turn up the defensive pressure. Again, sometimes we forget UConn's one of the best defensive teams in the country as well. Caroline Ducharme getting in the passing lane, and an easy 2 on the other end.
The defending champs without a true point guard, and what a first day we had yesterday.
Oh, it was incredible, and hopefully everyone was up to see Fran Belibi and that dunk. That was incredible in transition.
Ducharme with a couple of picks and sticks, and congratulations to 3 teams that have picked up their wins, double-digit victories. Williams this time, including the Coyotes of South Dakota. Hannah Shervin and company coming up with an upset win over Ole Miss. It was a terrific first day. Nice answer for Haupt, who is their three-point specialist, leading them, hitting 41% on the season. Ducharme left way too open.
Yeah, she really was.
And then Juhas with another damaging offensive rebound.
Pam, you're just really starting to see this UConn team in a flow and a rhythm, you know, on the offensive end of the floor. Everybody back to being able to play in their roles, in their comfort zone. Juhas really good on the offensive glass, has the position. And look, this is a terrific defensive team as well in UConn. Certainly have picked up their intensity in this quarter. But Pam, this team right now playing as well as they're playing, and as they're going to continue to get better throughout this tournament, is a team that competes for a national championship. There's no question about it.
Yeah, absolutely. There was some question during the regular season, but with all the personnel coming in and out, there's another offensive foul called on Mercer. And it's the first on India Banks. Paige Bueckers, if you're just joining us, getting the start in this game. Fudd's first shot is gorgeous. And that's what Gino Auriemma said, that he has never had a player with as good a footwork as Fudd on a jumper.
Yeah, absolutely. Her feet are always ready. Her hands are always ready. And this is the first field goal attempt for Azzi Fudd right here, and she's got too much time and space. You know, watching film on Azzi Fudd in her first start against Tennessee, the very first play of the ball game was run for her off of a double screen to get a three-point shot. She stepped up and knocked it down with such confidence. And here you see the numbers with and without Azzi Fudd and Paige Bueckers on the floor. There's really just no comparison. The impact that these two have, not just in the scoring column, but on their teammates.
Yeah, it changes everything when they're not on the floor. And that one loss when they were together was against South Carolina.
Yes. And Gino Auriemma talking to us about that South Carolina game as Neil Tyser looks a little shaken up.
Holding on to the right elbow. Kylie Sparks is the athletic trainer going out to lend a hand. And Susie Gardner, the head coach, heading out. What a quarter this has been. It was 17-9 after one, and now UConn has outscored them 15-2, turning up that defensive pressure. With the concern now for Neil Tyser, the senior from Sanford, North Carolina. Had a terrific Southern Conference tournament where she averaged 27 points per game and hit almost 60% of her shots as they beat Furman in the title game. Here's some of the Mercer faithful who have come from Macon, Georgia. She's actually holding on to her left arm. Let's take a look.
Looking to go for the up and under, came down awkwardly on that left arm.
Gosh, yeah, it looked like that left arm took a lot of her body weight when she hit the floor. Just been a terrific player in her career, the most outstanding player of the conference tournament for 2 years in a row, and they will, looks like they're taking her back to the dressing room area. She's their leading scorer, and another defensive stand for the Huskies. Westbrook is frustrated. She thought she could have herself a bunny on the other side. Gino wants to know why they just didn't let play go on, but what a terrific second quarter so far for UConn. They forced 7 turnovers in the first 3.5 minutes of this quarter. Westbrook got fouled. And that's that ball movement you see. You mentioned you get a chance to watch them in practice. It's really a treat. Not just the precision, but the drills that they run where they literally never put the ball on the floor.
Yeah, it is. It is. And the pace and intensity with which they do it. I mean, it is certainly what separates UConn from many teams in the country.
The NCAA Women's Basketball Championship presented by Capital One continues. Our next game, which will actually be on ESPN News. Looking forward to this one, Steph. It's an all-Florida matchup, UCF against the Gators. What a terrific season.
Yes.
Gosh, for Florida. ESPN app has all the information and all the games that you can watch.
Florida certainly one of the most surprising teams in the country. Terrific season, terrific SEC play.
And how about, if you were to ask what state has the most teams in the NCAA tournament this year, the answer, Florida. 6 Florida teams. We'll have 2 of them here today. Most since New York had 7 back in 2016.
And ironically, 4 of those teams playing one another. Miami beat South Florida, and now UCF playing Florida. Abrahamson Henderson, sorry, there's a lot of syllables there. She was not happy about that. She's like, you know, we have to play each other and eliminate each other on the first day. But yeah, good stuff for the teams from Florida, and we look forward to seeing those matchups coming up. Meanwhile, a chance for Mercer to get some points at the line. Allie Thane heading there after getting fouled by Bueckers, her first. That's why you just say Coach Abe, Pam.
Yeah,
just
right.
keep it simple.
That is the one and only time this weekend I will attempt that. Allie Thane from Pocatello, Idaho. Been there?
No, I have
Done
not.
that?
Been to Coeur d'Alene, but
Boise is lovely. Thane able to spin that in. Her second year at Mercer after starting out at the College of Southern Idaho. Usually gives them the defensive low post presence, but able to chip in some offense on that trip. And Fudd and Bueckers back on the floor together for the Huskies. Oh boy, India Banks has been a pest.
she sure has. And we mean that with the utmost
Highest
compliments.
Too ambitious to try to get it into Edwards. Post-to-post passing. Aaliyah Edwards, the sophomore from Kingston, Ontario, was on the Canadian Olympic team last summer.
And with Aaliyah Edwards in the ballgame, I think that high-low look is going to be something that UConn continues to go to.
Foul called on that shot taken by Titus. Katie Lukanich, Tim Bryant, and Scott Osborne are officials for this game in Stores. First foul on Azzi Fudd. Titus heading to the line. He has been one of the most prolific scorers in the history of this program, and coach says that she loves it. She knows what she's going to get from her every single day. Great defensive player and very consistent.
Yeah, and that certainly is a bonus. That's what you want as a coach. You want to know exactly what you're going to get from your players, and Shannon Titus has been consistent for this Mercer program her entire career.
They were down 32-18. There's a kick. Fudd thought about pulling it. And then the two-handed spike by Titus. Just talked about her, what a tenacious defender she is. And a timeout with UConn having a very productive second quarter, up big on Mercer. Let's check out our thrilling drives from today's game, brought to you by Nissan.
Well, UConn's been terrific in transition. They get it off of the defensive board, out for an easy 2. Defensively, they have been active. 7 turnovers forced for 10 points in the second quarter alone. Really changing the tempo of this ball game by upping their defensive intensity here in the second.
Gino Auriemma's squad with 15 points off turnovers. Yes, that's 1 more point than Mercer has in total points. There you see it. Second chance points in favor of Connecticut, as you might expect. No bench player has scored for Mercer either. And yes, Paige Bueckers back in the lineup after coming off the bench for 3 games in the Big East tournament, in the starting lineup, I should say. And Titus delivers out of the timeout. Before we went to break, by the way, Azzi Fudd picked up her 2nd foul for UConn and is still out there on the floor. Noted.
I love the way that UConn runs her off of stagger screens, double screen. She's involved in screen-the-screener actions. She is a terrific 3-point shooter, and they find ways to get her those shots in positions to make her successful.
And then the freshman Haupt gets the basket and was fouled.
All right, here we're going to see Azzi Fudd. You can't see her on the stagger screen on the backside, but her pace and how quickly she comes off of that screen. And as you mentioned, and Gino Auriemma told us, her feet are set, her hands are ready every time she catches, and she gets it off so quick.
Kristen Williams called for her 2nd foul for UConn. Boy, they barely got it in. Harkless quickly gets it back to Titus. Fudd, the #1 overall recruit. UConn landed 1 year after Bueckers, the nation's #1 overall recruit, came to Stores. Well, that might have been a walk-on.
Yes, I think so. I was over here silently officiating.
Yeah, not wearing the striped. Well, you were wearing a striped shirt today, so maybe that should have counted.
I would never want that job.
No. Difficult. Yuha's using her height to stop Banks in her tracks. Freshman Haupt carrying some of the load at the point. Rebound. Yuhas gets it up to Mule. Bueckers going to check back in for UConn at the next whistle. Edwards left wide open. And that's a foul. Yuhas, we're going to say, was grabbed by Harkless. I thought it might be the other way around.
Yeah, I think they saw Nigeria Harkless, her arm below the waist of Dorka Yuhas, trying to hold her down.
Harkless at 6'2", listed as 3 inches shorter than Yuhas.
I mean, look, it's a difficult thing when you're trying to box out UConn, not just because of their length and size, but because there's so much movement offensively that you're not in a typical defensive position for most of the possession.
Coming up at the half, it is the Degree halftime report. We'll take a look at some great matchups. BYU could surprise some folks, taking on Villanova, and Indiana and Charlotte. That's coming up again on the Degree halftime report. We have Elle Duncan, Rebecca Lobo, and Nikki Fargas. Nikki's been killing it.
She has been. Yep. She has been. Rebecca Lobo calling you out for trying to get her to participate, right? In a scoreboard here.
One thing Gample's missing, it's a spiffy renovation. They've done some nice things, but they don't have a big center court scoreboard with a nice video board. And, you know, some folks could probably write some checks. There we go. Look at that. It would be so pretty there.
It would fit perfectly right there.
Put a name on it. Maybe a picture of a wolf. With the Husky. Rough out some sketches. Lucy Gardner talking to some of her players. Boy, it was nice visiting with Gardner as Haupt at the line. And I like Coach Gardner. Literally says dadgum.
She does.
Often.
Literally says that. Now, talking to her team and really needing multiple players to step up. Amoria Neal-Tyser has not returned to the bench yet.
It's a concern,
It's a concern. 17 points a ball game for this ball club.
Yeah, already up against it playing UConn, but their leading scorer went out with an apparent arm injury. Wiped that off the books. 3-second violation, another turnover for UConn. And they get it right back. Bueckers waits, delivers.
That's one of those plays right there by Nigeria Harkless. Now learning you can't dribble through multiple defenders. You want to beat the pressure with a pass.
Rim it out. Stays with Mercer.
Well, defensively, just such a good job of closing the gap. Paige Bueckers gets it too in transition. Again, I think that you're going to see, and Paige Bueckers did not have a very good Big East tournament. And Gina Auriemma talking about she just didn't show up for the Big East tournament. But at the same time, I think throughout the course of the NCAA tournament, you're going to see her get more confident, get more aggressive. She's finding her way on the offensive end of the floor.
Harkless scoring on the other end, and there's the big height advantage, but nicely done to stop her. McNamara Clement, number 40 in black for Mercer. And the Mercer Bears, we have some of their faithful behind us, and they're well into it. Didn't expect to come this far north. Mule just picked up her second. Good-looking group of fans there for Mercer. They're in Macon, Georgia, and made the trip up here. SoCon champions. Titus at the line, and Susie Gardner been at Arkansas before taking the job and doing a really good coaching job down at Mercer. Fourth time in 5 years they've been to the big dance. So Mule with 2 fouls sits down for UConn, and they just keep cycling them in. Avina Westbrook checks in. We go inside, a minute and a half to go in the first half. Yeah, whistle away from the action. Edwards hits the deck, and then is helped up sportily by Harkless. You ever knock somebody down and then help them up?
Yeah, all the time.
All the time.
Mm-hmm. It's a physical game, right? Well, I don't know about still to this day. It's a physical game. Yeah, you see Leah Edwards trying to get position, and Harkless really battling to not allow that to happen.
So here's Edwards at the line. And her upside, remember she's just a sophomore, 6th player of the year and all freshman last year, and Gina Auriemma thought that Edwards had a little fire lit because she did not make any of the Big East All-Conference teams this year.
Yeah, and oftentimes it's what it takes. You know, you can't, you got to have some sort of internal motivation. And if that was an external motivation that's going to get Aaliyah Edwards to that next level, he's certainly welcome to.
Kept alive. And Bueckers forcing the pass back out to the perimeter, and Banks, Edwards all over her. And the clean miss by Doherty.
Number 14,
Paige Bueckers getting the start today with 4 points on the afternoon. Working her way back into things. That's not right. So fluid, right? The way she moves and gets the shot off in a millisecond.
It really is, and you know, it's a tough cover because she's getting more confident attacking the basket now since returning from that injury. But Pam, she was dominant before the injury. I mean, over 20 points a ball game, over 6 assists a ball game in those 6 games.
Now a chance for Connecticut to score before the end of the half. They had Edwards down on the block, but didn't find her. And then Nelson Adoa could not handle the pass. It goes out of bounds, but UConn takes a 20-point cushion into the locker room, shooting 52% from the floor. Time for the Degree halftime report. Elle, Rebecca, and Nikki.
To support our colleagues and teammates.
.8:15 left to go in the third quarter. UConn with a layup by Kristen Williams to take the 22-point lead. Winner gets the winner of Florida and UCF, which will follow us on ESPN News. And gosh, Kristen Williams and the rest of this defense making some magic happen. Bueckers absolutely hounded. Finally, the whistle on Haupt. This Mercer team coming in as a 15 seed, Stephanie. We were talking about this off camera at halftime. They are showing some grit and hustle.
They are. This is a feisty bunch. This is a bunch that certainly competes. They've been active. They've been aggressive. They've been fearless. And remember, this is a team right now that is playing without their leading scorer and leader, Amoria Neal Ticer, who came into this game and really most of this season adjusting to a new role in the point guard position, has been the leader for this team and went out with injury, is now on the bench in a sling.
Yeah, that obviously is not a good sight. They lose their leading scorer already in a huge underdog role. Nelson Odota now with 6 points to go along with their 6 rebounds. Gosh, and Edwards, that was a big-time collision with Allie Thane. Edwards called for her first personal foul.
Allie Thane trying to set the step-up screen, and looks like there was a lack of communication, and Leah Edwards runs right into her.
Yeah, Edwards good size too at 6'3", and Gina or Emma, you referenced it a little bit in the first half. When Edwards is going to start to extend her zone, can you imagine if she's hitting threes like that?
Yeah, already, you know, learning and feeling comfortable, I would say, at that 15-foot range is what the goal has been for this year. And he said this summer really working on extending to that three-point line.
Nice save out there by Azzi Fudd. Paige Bueckers did get the start today. That would have been a sweet assist, but a good defensive play. Votah, the Virginia Tech transfer with the play.
Well, Leah Edwards had really good position, and Votah getting herself back into play to make that block.
But then the answer, Azzi Fudd has hit all 3 of her threes.
So efficient, Pam. 44% from the three-point line. Again, doesn't need a lot of time and space because she does her work early. And typically we talk about that with both players, right? But from a footwork and hands-ready standpoint, she is there.
And the true freshman, Williams, a little bit short. Nelson Odota got fouled from behind. And remember Azzi Fudd, I remember hearing about her when she was in middle school, and she certainly has not disappointed as she's progressed to college.
No, she hasn't. I mean, just look at how hard she comes off of that screen. She sets it up. She's shot ready when she catches. The pass is on time and on target.
Foul on Harkless. Here comes India Banks, who's getting the playing time off the bench now with Neal Ticer hurt and unavailable with that left arm in his sling. Amoria, the senior from Sanford, North Carolina, signed as a point guard, had to be pressed into action as they had an injury early in the season to Aaron Gutierrez, so had to go back to point guard, and it was a prolific scorer, pardon me, for them this year.
Yeah, it was interesting talking to Susie Gardner about I originally signed her as a point guard as Paige Bueckers gets out in the passing lane and gets another 2.
What do they call it?
Paige Buckets. Paige Buckets, or Paigey Buckets, as our producer Seth Miller says. I mean, the defensive intensity and energy for UConn has been terrific. They have been aggressive, they have been active, and they have been dominant in transition.
Welcome back to the NCAA Women's Championship presented by Capital One. Right now, number 15, Mercer taking on 2-seed UConn from Stores, and here come the Huskies.
UConn has been terrific on the defensive end of the floor, forced 15 turnovers for 21 points. getting out in transition, getting some easy buckets, and they have been equally as dominant on the glass, particularly on the offensive end. 12 offensive rebounds for 19 points, using their size on the interior to their advantage. Just the activity level, Pam, on both ends of the floor for this UConn Husky team is back to where we have expected to see it.
Edwards with the foul. I think everybody took a deep breath because Paige Bueckers hit the deck, fell down on her way up the court, but she's okay. Bueckers getting the start today. The superstar who missed 19 games after undergoing surgery. Tibia plateau fracture and a torn meniscus. And looking good this afternoon.
Sometimes, Pam, those falls, you know, those moments are what you need to mentally get over a hurdle. You know, get back in the game, have a fall, get up. Okay, I'm okay. It's a next step in terms of coming back from injuries.
Bueckers all the way across court. Mule left open. Buries it. And this is a UConn team. We talked about all the players who missed time during the season. There's another steal. Fudd to Bueckers. And now UConn is on the other end of that, right? Trying to fit in all these pieces.
Yeah, and it really has started to come together. And Gino Auriemma talking to us about, you know, typically we're just working on us. We're working on building our chemistry offensively, getting into our rhythm offensively, and we had to prepare for whoever that next team is as Lee Edwards hits a jumper. You can tell over the last 5, 6, 7 games, they've been able to start working on them again. Their rhythm, their timing, their spacing, their fluidity offensively, their aggressiveness defensively.
And people, you were right. They talk about their offense all the time, but their defense is always among the best in the country. Another takeaway. Fuels their offense. Masinadota. Rebound taken down by Titus. And they're playing without their leading scorer, Neil Ticer, who was hurt in the first half. Another good rebound for Thane, who has been all over the boards. That's why she's out there working the boards, setting screens. Shot clock very skinny now for Banks. And another good defensive trip for UConn. UConn on a 14-0 run in this quarter. And they're hitting some threes.
So Nika Mule getting on the board for the Huskies. Now every player who has stepped on the floor today has made a bucket for the Huskies.
Let's take a look now at how Paige Bueckers is achieving the impossible, brought to you by Adidas. Now that's tough. That was the injury on December 5th, caused her to miss 19 games, but look at her now.
Man, I love that she's just been aggressive to the rim. She's been playing confident, she's been active. Or you see her getting out in transition. You know, it's physically tough to come back from an injury. It's mentally tougher to keep taking one step, getting over another hurdle, the next step, and Paige is doing that.
She's been averaging 14 minutes a game since her injury, 21 minutes in this game alone, as you see, the most since she has come back. This is her 6th game back. Now that's good play. Shannon Titus has been all over the place.
She has, and you mentioned it early. 3-time Defensive Player of the Year in the SoCon. The first player ever to do that. Her activity level has been terrific.
11th in scoring, 2nd in blocks in the history of this program. Only Tana Robinson had more blocks, and no one has had more steals than the super senior, and we mean super in more ways than one, from Johns Creek, Georgia. And more of the load now with Neil Ticer out of the game with the hurt elbow. Gosh, Paige is upset with herself. If she said dadgummit.
I'm not sure if she did say that. You sounded a little bit like a coach, though, right there. Like, gosh, dang, come on.
Dadgummit, that Paige Bueckers. And the fans love her. Going to go take a break. And the winner of this game will take on the winner of our second game, UCF, Central Florida, taking on the University of Florida on ESPN News around 3:30-ish Eastern time.
Going to be a terrific matchup. And what Coach Abe has done at UCF, and
play a little defense.
Their defensive intensity is locked down. Shoot, even Gino Auriemma was talking to us about, hey, look, defensively they are stifling. If they can consistently put the ball in the hole, he doesn't think anybody should beat them.
And to paraphrase Gino, he says UCF plays their butts off on defense. NCAA Women's Basketball Championship presented by Capital One continues, as we said, coming up at 3:30 Eastern on ESPN News, the Battle of Florida. And join us on Monday on a time and network to be determined to see who will advance on to Bridgeport. And yes, we will see UCF. They have the best, statistically speaking, scoring defense in the country. Masa Kaba among their great players, and Diamond Battle's doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so impressed with what Coach Abe has been able to do with UCF, but it's because of those two players. They have been the consummate leaders and anchors for this team, for this program. Diamond Battles has improved every single year to become a dominant player and a player of the year in the American Athletic Conference.
You know what they are, Kaba and Battles?
They're dogs, man. We talk about it all the time, right? Like, you have to have a little nasty in you. When you go between the lines, you can be nice as all get out outside these lines, but you have to have some nasty in you when you get between them.
And again, the supreme compliment being called the dog by Stephanie White, who was one herself at Purdue. There you go, from the corner for Ducharme. True freshman from Milton, Massachusetts, said she wanted to be a Husky since she was about 8 years old. And did open up the recruiting process, but decided to stay close to home, like another Massachusetts native. Rebecca Lobo in the studio. We'll get back to them after this game with Elle and Nikki. And another steal. Gosh, Titus. I don't think anybody's going to break her steals record at Mercer. The true freshman listed at 5'6".
That might be pushing it.
Is that in feet and inches?
But her recruiting story was really interesting. When we took a moment to ask Susie Gardner if she expected Erin Hout to make the impact that she has, and she said, no, honestly, as Kristen Williams gets another 2-in transition, honestly, I didn't know what to expect. She was one of those COVID recruits. We never saw her live, only saw her on film, didn't do a visit. She didn't visit at all. I thought, man, she's pretty small. Came in and certainly had an adjustment period, but is a shot maker. And when you have shot makers on your team, you find ways to get them in the ball games.
And that was one of the many residual effects. That's a foul in the backcourt of COVID. Can you imagine, because you highly recruited, of course, committing to a school you never visited, you never had an in-person visit with the coaches, and that's what happened with Erin Hout and so many players now who are freshmen in this in the country.
I think I can imagine, committing to schools like that with so many things that you can see on social media. You can kind of get a feel for what schools are like. I can't imagine as a coach, it's very difficult to watch on film and not see all the little intangibles that you see when you see players that are in live action. And every coach in the country went through that, during COVID, and went through the recruiting process, having to really evaluate on film, as you see Hout go over and talk with Coach Susie Gardner right now. And then already again, her role changing in this ball game, having to be a primary ball handler and a point guard in the absence of Amoria Neal Ticer, who went out early in the ball game with that injury.
Uhas fouled by Harkless, Mrs. Bowe. She admitted, Coach did, that she's tough on Hout, but says the kid can take it. She's always in the gym. She takes criticism well and works on her game. And as you mentioned, she's got to be the point guard against UConn.
Right.
On the road in the NCAA tournament.
Not just against anyone.
Yeah.
And against Nika Mule, who was the Big East Defensive Player of the Year.
Oh, that's a nice pass from Mule, who took a little Jolt in the face.
Personal foul, number 15, Nigeria, Harkless.
Another foul on Harkless.
Fifth personal foul.
And she has just fouled out of the game, but boy, Nika Mule took one in the face.
Nika Mule driving in transition. Looks like she got a little elbow in the mouth. She was able to deliver that pass right on the money and then took a shot.
Yeah, certainly no intent. Face met Thane's elbow.
2 free throws.
Mule, the sophomore from Croatia. As you mentioned, Defensive Player of the Year was Nika Mule, the 11th time a Husky has gotten Conference Defensive Player of the Year. She missed 3 games in December with an ankle injury, one of the myriad of puzzle pieces that the staff of Gino Auriemma had to figure out. Chris Daly, Jamel Elliott, Morgan Valley over on the bench. Ben Wiersba, David Lowry, and someone you know very well.
Marquez Webb.
Yes,
He's a player for me and an assistant coach on our staff at Vanderbilt.
On the Mercer staff. Always a big smile on her face, it seems.
Always, always.
Big smiles for UConn. They are outscoring and did outscore Mercer 20-0 in this quarter.
In the NCAA tournament, you haven't played for a while, a little rusty in that first quarter. We want to be the aggressor. We want to get in a rhythm and a timing on the defensive end of the floor. And they certainly have.
Absolutely. That's Stephanie White. I'm Pam Ward joining you. First of 2 games coming your way from Gamble. We'll be on ESPN News around the bottom of the hour. The next hour, 3:30-ish Eastern on ESPN News for UCF and Florida. The winner of that game will play the winner of this game. And there's that plucky little freshman, Aaron Haupt.
Susie Gardner talking to us about Aaron Houghton, just if she was going to be able to get her shot off against the length and athleticism of Connecticut. And she has done a really good job of finding her areas and knocking shots down when they're available.
And then the answer coming on the other end by Westbrook. And by the way, that Haupt 3 was their first point since the second quarter. They got outscored 20-0 in that third quarter. That's happened last night. Montana State goose eggs 20-0 in the first quarter of the game against mighty Stanford. And Haupt was the freshman of the year in the Southern Conference, or the SoCon as it is commonly called now.
Number 13, Kristen Williams.
Kristen Williams picks up the foul for UConn.
Third on Williams.
That is the third on Kristen. She's the only Husky in double figures. 13 points, showing the balance. Every player has scored that has gotten onto the floor. And gosh, Shannon Titus, what a game, and what is looking more and more like her last collegiate basketball game. Super senior. Edwards, she's gonna be scary.
She is, and you're right. I mean, when you start to figure it out, and when you start to understand how to be relentless all the time, because she's a terrific offensive rebounder. She does a very good job of getting low post position, has become more efficient offensively, and as soon as she continues to extend her range, I mean, she is going to be the next dominant player that you've seen come through this program.
Was on the Canadian Olympic team, did not get a lot of playing time, and might have set her back a little bit. Was not here in Connecticut. Oh, Bueckers.
Was averaging 6 points a ball game in that 14 minutes that you mentioned since her return in 5 games. And every game you could see the confidence getting stronger. You could see the rhythm and the timing getting better. 2 months is a long time to be away from the game.
Bueckers came back February the 25th in a game against St. John's. Westbrook 2 in a row. But Gino Auriemma mentioned it was actually the game before she came back. It was Marquette a couple of days, and said She participated in the shoot around, and that's when everybody kind of looked at each other and thought, yep, she's ready. And Paige went to coach before the St. John's game and said, ready to go, coach, put me in. And
they said,
she's
okay,
back.
She's back. She certainly is. Coming off of the handoff. Doesn't even need to put it on the floor. Nothing but the bottom of the net.
NCAA Women's Basketball Championship on ABC is presented by Capital One. What's in your wallet? UConn with a lot of hardware. They're 11 national champion seasons. That's key and Nurse. Their 11 NCAA titles, a Division I record. UConn firmly in control, leading Mercer 74-28. Outscoring them 31-5 here in the second half. Pam Ward and Stephanie White joining you. Paige Bueckers back in the starting lineup. A very balanced attack. All 9 Huskies that have played have scored. Alp got clipped on the head. See, there's an advantage of being someone who is not tall.
Spoken from someone who is not
tall. So in their history, 11 championships for the Huskies, but it's been a spell. It's been since 2016, Brianna Stewart's senior year, since they have won a title, longest drought since Rebecca Lobo's senior year. And again, 13 straight Final Four appearances. Now the Gino Auriemma is starting to go to his bench as both Bueckers and Williams come out.
And you know, it's really incredible because by Connecticut standards, everybody's like, what's going on with UConn? Like, what, you know, the expectation level for this program is so high. And in spite of all of the adversity that they have faced and all of the players being in and out, you know, to find themselves in a position of playing the best basketball at this time of year, when they are looking for that 14th straight Final Four, it is certainly in the realm of possibility.
And the NCAA Women's Basketball Championship presented by Capital One continues. Sweet 16, the Elite 8 coming up next weekend, and the Final Four in beautiful Minneapolis the first weekend in April. Championship Sunday, 8 Eastern time on ESPN. And boy, it has been fun. Just the first day yesterday had all those upsets and nail biters. Great performances. And speaking of a potential upset, how about the game after us on ABC, Steph White? Buffalo, Tennessee.
That is going to be a tremendous matchup. I mean, Felicia Leggett-Jack and her Buffalo squad, they have been there before, and they will not be intimidated. In Tennessee playing without Jordan Horston, and a Tennessee team that has been up and down throughout the course of this season. So check that one out. And Belmont, always a tough out.
Yeah.
They are a team that much like Florida Gulf Coast, shoots the ball so well playing Oregon. And Oregon, Kelly Graves' team, who has certainly seen their fair share of adversity as well.
Yep, beat UConn out on the coast when UConn was stripped down, missing 3 starters. And we'll be in that Wichita region next weekend. Some really good teams. Baylor, Alyssa Smith, and you saw the teams on your screen with the potential to get there. This is the Bridgeport region. Edwards hustling. And the same for the Mercer Bears. Allie Thane has been in the thick of things. So purple and gold braids, an homage to the Minnesota Vikings, do you think, for Edwards?
I think that's probably where your mind goes, being a Vikings fan, but I'm not quite sure that's where she goes.
But it works for her.
It does.
Speaking of upsets, look at Villanova. They're up 5 on BYU.
is a team that has been so good all season long, and of course Nova playing with such confidence, and they've been there before as well.
Nova lost in the Big East Championship game handily to UConn, but beat them in the regular season. Ducharme, second time, nope. Juhas, nope. Hands here, I see some of them holding their heads. Come on. 3 shots at it, couldn't get it to go. Wide open look. And then Westbrook, a little bit of a collision there with Titus that sent Shannon to the deck. Avina Westbrook used to be a Tennessee Lady Vol. Used to be an arch enemy, now here in Connecticut, coming off the bench, accepting that role.
Pam, I was reading an article where Gina Oriema was talking about, don't be deceived by the seeding of teams in the tournament. There is much more parity. We're not used to seeing a whole lot of upsets in women's basketball, but it's happening. The parity is at an all-time high. Teams playing so well. You've seen Missouri State as well, got a good victory. Coach Mock's doing a great job there. And now hanging tough with Ohio State early. Florida Gulf Coast, I mean, that is a team that no one wants to play.
Yeah, hit another upset alert perhaps. Yes. Florida Gulf Coast to Maryland.
Yes. 15 threes they made against Virginia Tech.
And Liz Kitley, bless her heart, 42 and lost.
Yes, yes, so tough. Liz Kitley had such a terrific year. The Kenny Brooks squad.
Liz Kitley, the ACC Player of the Year. NC State in their early dogfight against Longwood. NC State the #1 seed in this Bridgeport region. And some folks a bit cranky that UConn was put as the #2 seed, and then they'd have to go to Bridgeport should they survive the first weekend, where it will be packed with Husky fans.
Well, NC State has played like a Final Four team for most of the year. Their super seniors came back for that purpose. They have been on a mission. You can see the top 4 seeds in the Bridgeport region. Indiana, another team that's healthy heading into the postseason. And we mentioned at UConn, 13 straight Final Fours, trying to seek that 14th.
Indiana getting to the final of the Big Ten tournament against Iowa. Caitlin Clark got off to a good start yesterday, along with Monica Sonano. And that's another thing. You talk about the depth of team quality, but there are some really ridiculously talented players out there.
There sure are.
And both Clark and Paige Bueckers are true sophomores.
It's pretty incredible, right? Both of which, Paige Bueckers won National Player of the Year last year. Caitlin Clark certainly was in contention as well.
In some instances, if you looked at their numbers side by side, you have the argument that that Clark could have been National Player of the Year last year as a freshman. NCAA Men's Basketball Championship. Second round continues today and tonight on CBS, TBS, TNT, True TV. For more information on tournament game times and listings, go to ncaa.com. And now head coach Susie Gardner getting her reserves in, hugs all the way around. Allie Thane, the senior from Idaho, coming out and will get her bench players some time. The SoCon champions just knew they were up against it coming in here, as Botha takes a trip to the line. Another thing she said, along with a string of dadgums, bless our hearts, we're so little. And, when you look at them side by side, but they are really feisty, and you can see why they have been really the animals of the SoCon, the Southern Conference, for this last several years. 4th trip in 5 years to the NCAA tournament. But then they get in. It's like, oh yeah, we're in. And then you got to play in order. Yeah. Georgia, Iowa, close games. South Carolina, and now UConn. Yes. South Carolina and UConn in back-to-back years in the first round.
Back-to-back years. And so much of the NCAA tournament and NCAA tournament runs are about matchups. Some of it's seeding, certainly, but matchups. And Susie Gardner talked about, hey, we're trying to continue to challenge our schedule and find ways that we can get higher seeds and put ourselves in position to make deeper runs.
Well, UHAS has a double-double now for UConn. 10 boards, 10 points. UConn awaits the winner of our second game, UCF and Florida. That's going to be entertaining. That's Cassidy Jones, the true freshman from Lakeland, Florida, playing in just her 8th game of the year. A 6-sport athlete in high school.
Oh my goodness. I like it when players play multiple sports. I think it's good for them. I think it's good for their bodies.
Good for their souls.
Yes, good for their minds.
Ducharme with the hit. Lakeland, Florida, the hometown of our producer, Seth Miller.
I didn't know that.
His mother was a high school basketball
coach. I love it.
Seth was I heard a varsity baseball player at Clemson.
That's the rumor, huh?
Yeah, it's great when you clear the bench, you get kids like Jones in. We heard the crowd behind us erupt as Cassidy was able to get the points, and now the ovation as the starters start to come out. Yuha's going out, gotten some quality time off the bench. Nelson Adota as well. So an impressive first outing, would you say, for these Huskies with Bueckers back in the starting lineup?
Yeah, I would, and I think that, you know, when Gino Auriemma talked to us about what his goals were for this game, he would say we got to knock the rust off in the first quarter. We got to come out the aggressor. We have to set the tone and find ourselves by the end of this ball game in a rhythm on both ends of the floor, and I think they've certainly accomplished that. Certainly there's going to be some opportunity for growth when they watch the film, but at the same time, this is a team that looks like what we're used to seeing UConn women's basketball look like.
And that is scary stuff for the rest.
Yes, it is.
Of the NCAA field. The bucket just ticks off for Amari DeBerry. And the fans here waiting to erupt for their hometown kids. Getting some playing time.
Kinley Fisher knocking down that three for Mercer.
That was another true freshman scoring for Mercer. UConn is going to move through with a convincing victory, and we'll see them on Monday. Rolled in by Ashley Locke, so the true freshman coming in and getting their names into the score sheet for the Bears. Another bucket for Piath Gabriel, a sophomore from Manchester, New Hampshire. Mercer's season will end. 23 wins, 7 losses. But right now, let's check out today's player of the game, brought to you by Orgain Protein. And how about Kristen Williams having a nifty afternoon?
Yeah, you see her numbers right there. You know, I like the fact that she came out aggressive offensively, had a couple of early looks in transition, knocking down some threes.
And there certainly were some choices. Bueckers, solid. Ducharme in double figures, along with Yuhas, who had a double-double. And the people here at Gamble say this is more like it. This is what we're used to seeing with the Huskies, and we will see them on Monday against either UCF or the University of Florida. And congratulations to Mercer, the SoCon champs, for another terrific season. And we wish the best to Amoria Neal-Tyser and her arm injury. But Gino's got himself another victory. They take it 83-38. UCF Florida coming up at the bottom of the hour on ESPN News. For Stephanie White, I'm Pam Ward. Coming up next on ABC, Buffalo and Tennessee. But first, let's get you back to the studio.